There's a man named Cecil Clayton who had a sawmill accident a while back, and the accident was as gruesome as it gets. A piece of wood broke off a log and it entered his face. He ended up losing 7.7% of his brain, or 20% of his frontal lobe as a result of this. It was a big piece of wood just punctured his head, impaled him, and it was in his head. It was in his face. Insane. So he's lucky that he didn't die, but I don't know how we could even use the word lucky in the context of this conversation, because that's amazing and grotesque and horrific and scary. But after the incident, Clayton's brother says that he began acting erratic. He, quote, broke up with his wife, began drinking alcohol, and became impatient, unable to work, and more prone to violent outbursts. So that's interesting, and Think Progress reports, quote, the particular part of Clayton's brain that was damaged is the portion which governs judgment and impulse control. Wow. So, I mean, I guess we shouldn't really be surprised, because when you lose 7.7% of your brain or 20% of your frontal lobe and it's responsible for controlling judgment and impulse, of course there's going to be a backlash, a neurological backlash, or a backlash in your how you experience your consciousness. Of course there's going to be side effects to losing 7.7% of your brain. It's crazy to think otherwise. So this largely explains, or it certainly played a role in 1996 when Clayton shot and killed a police officer. He committed a heinous crime and killed a police officer. Well, get this. On Tuesday night, after the Supreme Court of the United States rejected a motion seeking a stay of execution, the state of Missouri executed Clayton anyway. So here we have a situation where, understand, it is unconstitutional to do capital punishment on somebody who's mentally deficient, who has a psychiatric disorder, somebody who has a low IQ or some sort of proven mental issue. You can't execute that person because the idea is, well, they obviously don't fully comprehend what they're doing, so how are you going to hold them accountable as if it was a choice that they made through their own free will? You can't do it. You just can't do it. So, and this is the Eighth Amendment we're talking about here, protection from cruel and unusual punishment. So if you have a serious mental deficiency and you kill somebody and you don't even understand exactly what you did, we're not going to put you to death, because what you need is treatment, and what you need is to, obviously you're away from the population because it's not safe for you to be around them, but you get treatment and you get care. And it's not like we treat you like you made a calculated choice and you understand the consequences of your action. And that makes sense. Everybody agrees to that. In America, everybody agrees to that. We look at that, right, okay, sure, that makes sense. But here we have a situation where, at least in my opinion, this is even worse to execute this guy. Because you want to talk about not having a choice. If you lose 7.7% of your fucking brain, 20% of your frontal lobe, and as they say, that's the area of your brain that governs judgment and impulse control, and then lo and behold, your judgment sucks and your impulse control is totally off, and you do something like kill a police officer, how are you going to hold that guy accountable? He lost 7.7% of his brain. If there was ever a scientifically proven situation where this guy was out of control of his own actions, this is it. This is it, even more so than if somebody had an IQ of 52 and they killed somebody, or if somebody has some sort of psychological disorder and they killed somebody. This is even more clear. You know what this reminds me of? There was a documentary, a show I was watching. It was either on the Science Channel or the Discovery Channel or something like that a while ago. And there was somebody who committed suicide. I'm not sure if he murdered other people and then he killed himself, or he just killed himself, because there were a bunch of different stories within this documentary. But either way, that's irrelevant, because long story short, the guy left a note when he committed suicide, when he killed himself. And he said, he was begging and pleading, all right, scientists, researchers, whoever, study my brain, study it. Why? Because I feel different now than I did when I was younger, and now I have this uncontrollable bloodlust. I have this urge to kill, and I can't fucking help it. It's an itch that I need to scratch, and I don't want to do it, so I'm going to have to put an end to this somehow. Let me kill myself, and specifically did not shoot himself in the brain so that scientists can study it and they can figure out if something's off. And lo and behold, they studied it, something was off. So what that shows is, if there's damage to certain areas of your brain, motherfucker, you don't have a choice with certain things that you do anymore. If you damage certain parts of your brain, if you damage one part, your appetite might be cut in half, and you can't force yourself, I want to be hungry more often. You can't! Your brain is damaged in that area. You can't! Sorry, your appetite's been cut in half because this particular part of your brain is damaged. Oh, that part was damaged. Now all of a sudden, somebody has a weird fetish or something. Well, they can't fucking help it. They damaged that part of their head, and it triggered something, and they can't override the impulse. The impulse is there, and it's real. If 7.7% of your frontal lobe is fucking missing, and you make some poor decisions, and that's the part of your brain that's responsible for decision-making, how are you going to hold that guy accountable? How are you going to put that guy to death as if he made a calculated decision? And I get it. Is there some aspect of crimes where you evaluate the crime on the basis of the harm done to the victim? Yes, I'm on that page, which is why I'm not a progressive on the issue of criminal justice. I'm actually a moderate on the issue of criminal justice. I think sometimes you need to do punishment, sometimes you need to do rehabilitation. So I'm a moderate in this area. You don't need to convince me that you punish crimes or you react to crimes based, at least in part, on what happens to the victim. That's how you judge it. But there's more to it than just that. There's a lot that goes into the cocktail of determining how to react and how we should respond as a society to somebody who commits a crime. And in an issue like this, to say, put him to death, fuck him, because, he was able to make the decision and it was something he was in control of and it's just evil. No, there is, you know what this is like? It's like punishing somebody for having a literal illness. It's like if somebody has Ebola and you're like, will yourself out of it. What the fuck's wrong with you? What the fuck's wrong with you? And again, not every crime is not like everybody who's ever killed somebody. Not everybody's in that boat. Some people do have more of a choice and they're not damaged in that way, right? But for a guy like this, where 7.7% of the judgment part of his brain is missing and he makes poor judgments, well, that's like saying to a guy who has Ebola or HIV, hey, buddy, pep up a little bit. Will your way out of it. Think positive thoughts. How? They can't. It's not possible. That's what this is like. And fucking Missouri put him to death anyway. You guys are all an embarrassment to the United States of America. Everybody who was complicit in this decision, not the citizens of Missouri, you had nothing to do with this, and I'm sure if you heard the facts, you would be like, yeah, come on, that's a little silly. But everybody who was, the Supreme Court, which didn't grant a stay, the liberal justices tried, but for whatever reason, it didn't work. I don't know exactly how the specifics went, but the article points that out. But everybody who's complicit in this, you're a pathetic human being. You're immoral. You're the problem. We're so much better than this guy who killed somebody, and we're going to prove that by killing him.